Mike Bordick here visiting with Sig Mejdal. We're considered one of the all-stars in the baseball analytic world today. You shrug back. You're a pretty popular guy right now in analytically in baseball. And I just wanted to know, like a lot of fans here in Baltimore, how did you get into the game? From what I understand, Dad was in the service, Mom was a nurse, not a lot of baseball background there, but
No.
you ended up loving it.
Yeah, no, they were both immigrants. They didn't know the first thing about baseball. So growing up in California, like so many kids, I think table baseball games and baseball cards and the game of the week was such a part of my life, and that interest just never went away. As I got older, I stayed involved in the baseball research, but never had the imagination that it would turn into anything other than an outsider who was a little bit interested in baseball until Moneyball came out. And then that's when I thought, aha, the teams are all going to follow what the A's have done, and we'll hire someone with a background like myself.
There you go. Pretty big, impactful book, obviously. Kind of changed the game. Yeah. And, of course, growing up there in the Bay Area, following the Oakland A's, you got to firsthand witness how that team kind of transformed and really what Billy Beane was trying to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't appreciate how they were doing it. I could see their success they were having with the low budget, but I just thought this was good fortune or good decisions. I didn't realize that Paul DePodesta and Billy Beane and Sandy Alderson were behaving a little bit different than the rest of the clubs.
Yeah, so obviously a love of numbers. Went to college, multiple degrees, ended up working for NASA. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was NASA Ames Research Center in Mountain View, California, and I was part of a sleep research group doing a lot of work on modeling human performance given your sleep-wake history. So if you've been up for 40 hours, how bad are you? Or 4 days of 4 hours of sleep, how bad are you? But more importantly, what mathematical formula could we create that would best model the human performance?
Human performance. I think that's really interesting, because it's one thing to say, okay, numbers on a baseball field, a guy's batting average, but when you start thinking how sleep potentially can, help or hurt, hinder performance, human performance, and you get into the baseball side of things, and then you start dealing with athletes that really that's all they care about. And from what I understand, you actually applied that type of thinking into baseball, studying players, how they traveled East Coast and West Coast.
Yeah. Well, I've always had a curiosity with baseball, and so I still had to make a living. And so some of my interest in baseball led me to read a bit about the sleep research, and it was all from the curiosity of the players intercontinental or within the U.S. travel and how that would affect them. But nobody was paying or cared about that. But from that work, I was able to entice NASA to sponsor me and to bring me on. And so we were doing work with pilots and astronauts and truck drivers, but my mind was always on how this would affect baseball players.